Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody tuning in on YouTube. Pardon me, I'm just setting up all the cameras. Charlie, can I get you to go over to the corner, youngster? I gotta move the chair this way. I know. I gotta get the dog. Oh, that's a table. Is anyone joining it? Hi.
Charlie boy.
Erin has returned.
Hello.
Okay. Next camera.
Oh, I need to go on IG too, don't I? Let's see here. Hi, somebody is on YouTube. ZTube. I also need to put more lipstick on. Hold on. Would you mind handing me Gorilla Pod, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. In the scoop. Not in your face.
Yeah.
Oopsies.
Oh, nice. There we go.
Okay. Go live.
I must turn camera around. There we go. Hello. Oh, hello there.
The queen and all of her beauty.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Chris. I love your outfit today. It's pretty sick.
Thank you.
Put some lipstick on. And my grandma always taught me not to do it in front of like everyone. Is that weird?
Really? Is that a thing?
Okay, fine. Maybe it's not a thing. Maybe I'm just gonna put my lipstick on in front of everyone. I feel like it's unprofessional.
Oh, well,
Is
I mean,
I'm uncomfortable, guys. I'll be right back.
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, our presidency's been unprofessional for the past 4 years.
Oh, whoa!
We
That
can say
was
that.
good.
He's gone now.
We can, I know. Yeah. So what do you think about that? I have clients who really like don't want to make any comment on politics ever, you know?
Right.
Which I get. But
okay, if I'm being honest, so like I know we're starting the show and everything. What's been interesting to me about this beginning of the year politically is that I haven't said anything. I haven't expressed my views. I haven't said what I agree with. I haven't said what I disagree with. But I'm already finding that people are not doing their research on on the policies that are being enacted on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like one of the things that they were talking about was the pipeline. The whole rescinding the decision of the pipeline. And I have a lot of Republican friends who are like, oh, well, thanks a lot, Biden. You just cost like thousands of jobs. And I'm just kind of like, calm down. It was only like 1,200 and something. Like, stop it. And then plus like the whole thing was so he could give more jobs to people in the energy sector so we could have clean energy and like get our carbon footprint. But everybody's like, oh, but the jobs that were there. And I'm just
I know.
You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's very heading, no article. You know what I mean? And it just, so like, not to say people are just kind of being dumb. It's just like, you can tell that there's not very much complete thoughts.
And it's so polarized right now. Everybody has their own, everybody has their own take on what's going on. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much advice about I think you just do what you want to do. Everybody's got a different comfort level as far as what they're okay with posting, and what they're not.
Right.
So nobody is on my IG live.
What? That's rare.
I know. I feel abandoned by you all.
So we also like to say we're drinking our guava tequilas today. Yeah.
I might have already started.
I know. We're getting down over here, like for sure. It's been a day. It's been a week.
We were just talking about that.
Well, yeah. We would also like to say before we start, it's been very windy.
Hi, Lou Jam.
Very tragic with the weather around these parts. So pardon us if like anything gets cut off halfway through.
If anything goes down, it's probably the wind. it's not. I don't think it's supposed to start raining and be windy again for a couple hours, but tomorrow is going to rain. For those of you that are out of state, tomorrow it's going to rain all day here. For the next 3 days, it's going to rain all day.
For sure. Weather down, blood pressure up.
Yeah. Look at this cute little Instax picture we took.
I know, huh?
Yeah, it didn't really turn out the way I thought it was going to, but at least Chris looks good. My face is like very large and very white in it, but it's all right.
So let's get started. Do I stir, you stir? I stir.
Okay.
And then you get to pick.
Okay. I took too long to answer, so he just decided what to do. That happens a lot.
Okay. Here's a big one for you.
Ooh.
You can pick that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Oh, this is one for you, Chris.
Oh, yay. Yes.
How much should you spend on a digital campaign?
Phenomenal
ad
question.
Ad campaign.
So let me hit you guys with the data real quick, right? So data. So listen, and that was a sneeze in the background from the dog.
He's going hardcore for the attention right now. You're not seeing what's going on, but he's like bulldozing in between me and Chris with his see.
Okay, so data on marketing. If you are a business or firm, 5 to 15% of your annual income will be spent on marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Of that 5 to 15%, 28% to 34% will be spent on the creation of marketing materials.
Mm-hmm.
Now, other things that go into that aforementioned 5 to 15% is ad creation. It's choosing where you're going to be posting it. It's making sure your Google's things are online. And by that, I mean your Google Ads, Google AdWords, AdSense, analytics, things that you use to help track your ad performance on Google. Then you got the taxes and fees and charges involved with it. Then you got to pay the labor to do all of those things. And then you got to pay for the monitoring, so all of these things are just kind of like what takes up the budget, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
lots of money.
A lot of money.
Lots of money.
And what I tell people, I kind of do it based off of the goal. So I'll give you guys one example. So just to put your Google ad up from Google Ads, Google AdWords, Google AdSense, I normally say if you're going to do it with Google, they have payment options. They have like 3. They have like a $10, a $12, and a $27. I say do the $10 first if you're just starting and you have no data.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I say that is because if you have no data, then I, as the marketer, have no idea where to put your demographic. I have no idea how much money is needed to make these things work out. I have no idea what locations work better for targeting than others. I have no idea what age group to go through, and I need that data. So it's definitely good to start low. Also, when you're doing ad promotions and everything through Google, they charge you by clicks onto your website, right? So you can set your cap budget, but even for that $10 thing, it's not like $10 a day or $10 a month. It's almost like breaks down to about maybe like 1 to 12 cents a click, depending on how popular you are.
Yeah.
So I have a client right now who his click-through rate right now is 2 cents a click.
Nice.
And I've seen things as high as 23 cents a click.
High. Yeah.
For people who have very low reach but very high presence. You know what I mean?
So basically, what we always recommend to people is that you start real low on your ad spend budget until you have the data to justify spending more on the ad spend budget. It's not that, you always want to spend the least amount possible. Sometimes you really do want to throw a lot of money behind it.
Right.
But I would say for the first 6 months, right, you want to just be collecting data to see what's worth it, right? Because you can't target unless you've already done a campaign and you know what worked, or a few campaigns. You got to compare them, right?
Absolutely.
So save the money till like 6 months later, a year later, when you have all that data and you got somebody like him. And that's where we work really well together, because he'll be like, oh, cool. So the video with the fries in the first, the shot of the fries in the first 5 seconds did way better than when you pushed it back to 10 seconds. So we're going to create the content for the ad in such a way that we know that it's going to attract attention. We know it's going to get the engagement. We know that all of the ad dollars that we put behind it, that we've already researched, are going to show up in the content. And then who watches it? Did that make any sense?
And you know what? I'll give you an example to exactly the case that Erin's talking about. So I don't know if you guys have seen that that commercial with the car, and it's like the lady like spends her entire day preparing for this dinner with like her friends, and then it turns out to be like just for the kids, right? You know, the girl.
I haven't seen. Well, I don't really watch TV.
Yeah, so she goes through this whole commercial, like whole thing, and then like buys fish and everything because she thinks she's gonna have this dinner, and then it ends up just being like a kid play date, right?
Yeah.
So my point in bringing that example up is because if anybody's paid attention to the way that commercial has aged over time, the ending changed. The alternate ending changed. They made it shorter. And they made it shorter because they realized, or somebody working with the data must have realized that there must have been a drop-off point. There must have been data suggesting that they should shorten the ad and only keep the sweet spots. You know what I mean? They took a lot of details out.
Yeah.
And we're going to probably take a lot of details out based on the data. You know what I mean? This is something that happens all the time. If you like really look at commercials, if you really look at your Snapchats, if you really are like scrolling through the gram and like you're going through the stories and you find the ads and everything in between and notice they've gotten shorter, it's because somebody's looking at it that way. You
Somebody
know what I mean?
went in there and really chopped it up and picked it apart.
Right. So going back to our main question, you know, how much should you spend? Going by monthly, if you're going to be doing like Google ad targeting, $390 for sure, flat. If you're doing just social media in terms of like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, yada, yada. Some people charge per hour. Some people charge by channel. Some people charge task at a time. I say budget $300 for it because in $300, you're basically saying like, I'm going to spend $10 a day. Getting to wherever things need to get to.
Oh, which reminds me, how long should it last? Or is that something that is also dependent on the data that you've collected from other campaigns?
For sure. So I'll say it once if I don't say it a million times.
And he will say it a million times. Oh, sorry. That wasn't a dig. I was just saying that you will say it a million times.
I will, because I do say it millions of times. But so I always say give everything to collect data 2 weeks. And I'm going to give you another example as to why. So I have a client who just started on this Google Ads thing of which I speak to everybody, right? He wanted me to check it after 5 days. After 5 days, by the way, he spent $200 on his campaign, right? After 5 days, he's gotten no calls, no money, and he's only reached about 800 people after spending or after putting $200 in his budget, right? They haven't charged him because he hasn't gotten any clicks or anything. And he was like, okay, well, what do we do because of this data? And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, it's only been a week.
Yeah.
Give it 2 weeks. You got to slow down. You got to let the data collect. You got to make sure it do its thing. You know what I mean? Let it slow cook. So, you know what? So I checked the data this morning.
You got to crock pot that ad.
Yeah, for sure.
Crock pot that
ad. And so I checked the data this morning. After 2 weeks, his impressions went up to 77,000.
So there you go.
You know what?
So it takes time. It just takes time to marinate.
Yeah, and it was just another week. You know what I mean? So I'm going to say it a million times. Like, it really does take like a week or 2 weeks difference to go from 877,000. You know what I mean? It really do be like that.
Yeah.
So I tell everybody, give it 2 weeks and you'll have a perfect set of data. The best valuable set of data is always after a month.
Yeah.
But if you're like really like need to see how something is performing like as quick as possible, then like recommendation is 2 weeks. I wouldn't suggest giving it a week because again, like the results are just so low.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, unless you're one of those people who put something in like last minute.
Yeah.
And then like only had a week.
Yeah.
Then that should be the only justification to wait a week.
Okay. I like it. I had a couple of ideas for today.
Yeah.
You sent me this email like, I don't know, mid last week or early last week.
Yes.
And it had some cool things in it. So this email's from The Weekender. And this one is from Social Media Today.
Love Social Media Today.
Yeah, they've got some very cool things to talk about. So they kind of do just like a collection of their favorite articles that they're reading or things that they think are really interesting for us. But there was this one. Well, of course, now I can't find it. But they were talking about fonts that are really in right now.
Yeah.
So everything is combined with imagery. That's something that we're looking at going into 2021. And I think this is relevant for everyone watching this because, we're all on some level doing our own stuff still. We don't have like a full-time marketing department that makes all of our graphics or whatever. It's very relevant for us because we want to, stay on top of things that we're making for other people.
Right.
But so narrow fonts, narrow bold fonts, right? Things that it used to be like a Gotham that used to be like rounder. We're seeing a lot of that transition into like narrower typeface. And also they were saying, like combining with images.
Yes.
And also really contrasty. Like you were saying the other day on your chamber presentation right now, neons, my favorite. I love my neons. But neons and pastels are kind of out right now.
Yeah.
Bolder, more crisp and more contrasting color combinations are really in for this year.
Pastels and everything.
Yeah. So it's just kind of, I don't know, I think the little general rule of thumb stuff is nice because if you just have it, like you don't have to follow it to the T because ultimately you're trying to express yourself through the branding, right? But like it's nice to have it and to kind of know that it's there because it does give you a little bit of a guideline,
Right.
And kind of just help you find your way. It's a jungle out there.
Yeah, so to bring it back to our original question about how much you should spend, bottom line answer is probably like $300 a month, depending on what your goals are. Because like I said, like the Google things will run you about $200, $300. And then like any social media posting you do will probably run you about the same amount. But if you're doing them together, then definitely allocate that differently or just come up with more money.
But for how big of a, right?
Yeah.
Like if your revenue is between what and what, like how that should be 300. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or your profit.
Yeah, so I tell you what, if you're a company that makes about like 100,000 in that range, you could definitely, and like I said, it's about 5 to 15% of your budget. So I've just said about like $5,000 for the year for 12 months. You know what I mean? $5,000, 12 months. The breakdown of that completely evens out for like our scope of work, just for like a regular campaign, just to keep it updated, just to make sure the touches are there, just to make sure you hit like your 1 or 2 a week and it's not too infrequent. You know what I mean? I think like 5,000 for the year is like the perfect sweet spot amount, especially if you're like strapped for cash and like might not want to like have heavy campaigns. Heavy campaigns, I would for sure say $15,000.
So that's anybody that's like making revenue under $1 million then,
yeah.
Right? Is like, you're saying like 5,000 for minimum. Right?
For sure. And you know what? I do remember because I got reached out to by Snapchat so I could like partner with them so I could add stuff on Snapchat. And while I was on my call with them, this lady from Snapchat, she was talking about, so what was my budget when I was on the call with her at the time? And I was like, oh, well, I have this much. And she was like, oh, you mean this much, 100,000? And I was like, girl, slow down.
No, just this much.
And so turns out that like firms really do be out here spending like $100,000 to have Snapchat ad runs, but you also have to understand that they're paying to have those videos made.
Yeah.
They're paying for that engagement. They're paying for people to like constantly swipe and run those and monitor those. You know what I mean? So for sure, these firms that are like international can afford it, need to be in like every state, easily dipping into the $100,000 range. Not even a joke. For sure.
Questions?
Yeah.
Anybody got questions?
At this time, we would like to ask if anybody has.
Open the floor. No. I had an interesting thing happen today. It's probably not interesting to anybody but me. But I'm going to talk about it anyway because I can. I have these lamps like this one. There are two. There's one right up here too, and then I have this big window over here, and then I also set up a ring light, right? So that's like all of my lighting for my Zoom calls and things. I was on like 6 Zoom calls today. I spent most of my day on Zoom networking and sales calls and all the things. It was great though. It was a good day. I got to see a lot of people, but yeah, I noticed that I had an orange gel on the ring light, and there was so much daylight that I like one side of me was blue and one side of me was was orange at one point. And I was like, oh, this isn't working. But then it kind of reminded me that that's what happens a lot on Zoom. People have like a natural light source, right, coming from one direction, and then they also have like their overhead fluorescence coming down or whatever or whatever overhead light they have, or their desk lamp. So yeah, you do want to like start to, especially if you're shooting content for your social media channels a lot, if you're doing like a little vlog or podcast or going live, you want to try to make the light temperatures all the same. So you want to try to make sure you don't have like a yellow bulb in one and then daylight coming in from the other, because a yellow bulb is yellow and daylight is usually very blue. So if you want to start, just little tips to up your game.
So we got a question.
Professional. Yes.
So the question is, with the $5,000 budget, what can you typically expect that to cover?
Okay, for ad spend?
Yeah. So let's talk about social media scope work, right? Mm-hmm. So if someone gave you if they had a $5,000 budget, let's say for the year, let's say $5,000 for the year. So what would the month-to-month breakdown for like things that we do look like?
And that's all they have. They don't have it for that, or the 5,000 is not ad spend. It's just to spend on digital marketing. Is that what we're talking about?
We could allocate it to ad spend. Mm-hmm. So let's do one scenario. Let's do without ad spend, purely social media, and then maybe like a quarter ad spend and then the rest social media. Okay.
Well, I can't do math in my head. Bad Asian.
Right.
So yeah. But I would say, so for the basic posting. Oh, and this is something I was talking to someone about, a potential client about recently too. She was like, oh, well, the person who was helping me before, it was so much less and blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, yeah, that's true, but you're also not getting any strategy with that. Because, she wasn't getting any strategy at all. She was just having somebody be like, oh, this is a cool photo, and then posting it. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But we are strategizing everything. And we're going off of data collection. We're going off of understanding of your competitors and research in your field. So what I would say, so monthly, you're probably looking for us to manage social media. You're looking at anywhere between 300 and like starting at like $300, right? And
by the way, the breakdown is $600 a month for a $5,000 budget for 12 months.
Yeah, thank you, because you can do math in your head.
I was thinking about that this entire time you were talking.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna try really hard.
I was really trying to math. This is why we're designers.
This is why we're artists.
So anyway, so let's say we have $600 a month, right? Which is a very good pay for us in order to do work.
Yeah. But it's also, so I think the 600, that's where you kind of have to be a little cagey to start, because 600 is great if you only want someone to basically post for you, right? Write for you and post for you, and you want to provide all of the photos and content. You're going to have a very hard time finding somebody to come out and shoot for you for that price every month.
Right.
So usually like that will maybe cover the posting,
yeah,
or it will cover the content, but it won't, the creation of the content, but it won't cover both. So just so you know, reasonable expectations.
Yeah.
But I would say, then if you would start with the posting and probably a newsletter or two, right?
Right.
So that you're covering more, territory and kind of infiltrating people's minds. And then after that, you would look at creating your original content. You can, there was a point where like stock photos just plummeted engagement. People really weren't responding well to stock photos. But now that we have the ability to brand the photos, right, really easily with some of these things like Canva and Adobe Spark, you can create animated graphics and brand your stock photos now, and it looks really good and it's unique. So that's one way to get around having to have somebody come out and shoot for you.
Right.
Yeah. And then as far as using ad spend.
Right. So for me, when I use ad spend with, say we're working on a $600 a month budget, I would say maybe like $50 a week, and I would do boosts. I wouldn't do like a structured ad, because if I do like an ad, like we were saying earlier, that'll be about like $100 to $300 just for some results, right? Because I also got to see how popular the business is. If you're a person who profits by spending less and will be fine, or if you do need that extra amount, I definitely would allocate like half of that if you're like really needed it to your Google ad spend. And then the remainder, I would have such infrequent social media posts. You would only get like 2 a week. I would not check your data, but you would get good images. It would only be 2 a week on the day of your choosing. But that's a good thing, because it gives us time to like really hone in on topics. So if you're only going to get like 2 a week, then you should really be like, okay, here's how much money I have. Here's how much content I have. I want to make these stories as unique, as well thought out, as well written as possible. There's enough time between them to really think about the structural integrity of the post. So that's where that effort should go on your end. And it gives us time to make sure it's refined as possible.
Yeah.
And then you still get some money left over to do some ad stuff. So those few that you make during the month, you could boost those, and those could go higher, because then people start to recognize higher quality of your stuff. Or you could be like somebody who's just like, I need to post every day. The quality of your post will be reduced, because like posting every day and having a lot to say, that's expensive. You know what I mean? So you would definitely be getting like super baseline posts with that kind of thing. So up to
you would still be out there every day.
For sure.
And depending on the type of business, like, you know, I think that we're both like honest enough that we would advise you as to whether or not we think that's a good idea. You know, some businesses would really benefit from that. Like, it's just like, oh, we're going to repost somebody else's meme today, right?
Right.
But some businesses really need the personal touch. It needs to feel, you know, really thought out and written well, and that's going to take more time. So.
Right. Because like I was saying at my last presentation, is that people really need to focus on their tone. People need to focus on their mood. People need to focus on the personality that comes across in your social media posts. And if you're a person with only $600 a month and you wanted to post like every day, that kind of frequency, like that's not going to be well for you. You know, you're just going to look like quite the poster. And so I do say like reel it back to like 2, maybe 3 posts a week, so we can get time to like make you sound as realistic and personable as possible. But that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah. And we're running a little long, but I would also say it's funny because I think, you know, we look at it and think, oh, wow, okay, what can I do for this $600? Like, how do I make this work for the client? But, you know, also, if you're in that place where you finally have, you know, business is finally doing well enough that you have that kind of money to where you can spend that, like, good for you. Because you know, we get it. It's you're coming from a lot of, you know, working your way up completely. And it is really nice to be able to hand that part over, to hand the social media and the marketing over to someone and not stress about it anymore when you finally get to that level. So that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys. I did finish. You want to chug that little last bit? You know what? I realized I still need to explain to you what keg standing is.
Yeah, that's right. I still don't know what a keg stand is.
All right. Well, we're going to go, and I need to enlighten her on what this is. So have a wonderful evening, everybody. Have a great night. Eat lots of food that I hope you prepare well. And bye, guys.
Bye. Oh, wait. We're not going to be here next week.
We're not going to be here next
I almost forgot. I'm sorry.
Correct.
I'm getting a new, I'm adding on to my dive certification for my underwater videography. I'm very excited.
I know,
so I have a new class to take. So anyway, yeah, we're not going to be here next week. All right. Love you all. Bye.
Bye.
As we turn off all of the cameras.